think he's joined. So welcome everybody. We'll just go ahead and get started today. Here we go. Let me just make sure everything is good to go. Operate this. Perfect. Welcome everyone. My name is Sofia Aleman and I am here today as part of MRCA to present and introduce the Reseda Park Triangle project. This has been an effort ongoing for a little while. COVID kind of stalled us out, but we're very happy and very excited to present what we have currently, and it's very valuable that you're here today to provide us context for this project as well as feedback on some of the components. Like I mentioned, my name is Sofia Aleman. I'm the Deputy Chief of Park Development with MRCA, as well as the project manager for this project. Today, I am joined here by our project team, as well as our project partners, and I will allow them to introduce themselves one at a time. So, George, if you'd like to go ahead and be first.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is George Kuttner. I am an associate at SWA Group, landscape architecture firm, and we've been assisting MRCA with the concept development that you'll be seeing today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kaya Marina Lay. My pronouns are she, her, they, them. I'm currently calling in from Tongva territory. I am a program coordinator for Community Nature and Connection, an organization whose mission is to increase access to the outdoors for communities impacted by racial, socioeconomic, and disability injustices by eliminating existing barriers through advocacy, community-centered programming, and workforce development. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Kaya. And then briefly, John, I'd give you the floor if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Sophia. My name is John Poposh, and I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff for Councilmember Bob Blumenfield. It's an honor to be here. I've worked for Bob since 2007. Bob did work for the MRCA many years ago. And so I'm excited that we are partnering with MRCA and the Rec and Parks Department to help bring some ideas your way and get some ideas from the community on feedback for the design of the park. And just by way of my background, I work on park projects in the district, and I was a Rec and Parks director in the early 2000s at Augustus Hawkins Natural Park in South LA, Harbor City. I was at Kemoy Harbor Regional Park. I was at Leland Park in San Pedro. I was in Wilmington. I was at Rosecrans in Gardena. And I was in a lot of, I hate to use the term park poor neighborhoods, but it was very important for me to bring to the communities there some wonderful open space. And I love working on this kind of issue. And now I'm doing it from the side of the council member, and have helped build 3 parks in the district, and looking forward to the improvements on this one with the help of our community members, and of course the MRCA. It's been great working with you, Sophia, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
And I appreciate it, and definitely puts into context some of the need that's in these areas, but also the types of benefits we're looking to incorporate within these parks. So I just have a few announcements before we proceed into the actual material. I wanted to just provide a little bit of information about the Zoom Translate. So Jessica, if you please.
Thank you, Sophia. If you are in need of English to Spanish translation services for this meeting and are participating remotely, please click on the icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen that looks like a globe. Select Spanish as your preferred language from the drop-down menu, and then click on the Mute Original Audio Source. You will now begin to hear the meeting in Spanish. Ms. Damasi, can you please make this announcement in Spanish for us?
Thank you, Ms. Medina. Buenas tardes a todos, yo soy Flor Di Masi, gerente general de Globus Fit Traducciones, y esta tarde estaremos ofreciendo servicios de interpretación simultánea del inglés al español para esta reunión. Para poder accesar la interpretación al español, favor de oprimir el icono en forma de mundo en la parte inferior derecha de la pantalla. Seleccione español como su idioma de preferencia en el menú desplegable y asegúrese de seleccionar modo silencio audio original para evitar escuchar ambos idiomas o ruidos de fondo. Ahora comenzará usted a escuchar la reunión en español. Thank you, Ms. Medina.
Muchísimas gracias, Flor. Thank you,
A sus
Jessica.
órdenes. Gracias.
And a couple reminders before we get into the bulk of the context. So the purpose of this meeting that we have here today is to share ideas for potential improvements of Reseda Park Triangle. It's both ideas from our end and to hear your ideas, thoughts, and concerns. Although we may not have all the answers at this time, we will try our best to answer them. But if we do not have them, we will make sure to get back to you either via email or through updates for future updates that we have with the community. To value everyone's time, please remember that all ideas that are shared have value. To treat others with respect when you do have time to comment. Please avoid editorials so that we respect everyone's time, and to stay focused during the meeting on the meeting purpose. There are a couple of methods to participate, and Jessica, would you like to highlight what those are?
Yes. If there are any members of the public on the line who would like to make comments towards the end of the meeting, please sign up to speak by using the Q&A button or the chat function in the bottom center of your Zoom screen. If you have logged into this meeting by phone call only, you may raise your hand to speak during the public comment period by dialing *9 on your telephone and wait to be called on. Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you so much. And as we mentioned, comments received through the chat function or any notes that are received through the chat function will be recorded, but we will not be addressing them directly, but we appreciate any value or feedback that you may add there. If you have any specific questions you'd like for us to address, please include those in the Q&A. Jessica will be monitoring that and we'll be able to address those one by one after we do complete our presentation. Fantastic. So now that we're at the meat of the presentation, we're gonna do a quick summary on the agenda and what you can expect for today. I myself with MRCA will do a brief introduction about who MRCA is and the project background. We will have Kaya from Community Nature Connection give us a presentation on stormwater in LA and its importance and value, both within our parks and just overall in our day-to-day, how important it is in Los Angeles. And then George will conclude reviewing the design concepts that we have currently and the elements that are incorporated for that. And then at the end, we will open up for discussion about the concepts or any questions you might have of our presentation and highlight a couple more opportunities that are coming in this upcoming 2 weeks to continue to give us feedback, both at the park site or through an online survey, or just emailing me and letting me know what you think. But before we proceed with that, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that Reseda Park and the Los Angeles River are situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Tongva, the Fernandeño Tataviam, and the Chumash people. I'd also like to acknowledge that you are joining us today from many places, probably not at Reseda, near and far, and acknowledge that the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. Briefly, MRCA, or the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, I refer to it as a regional park agency. Technically, we're a joint powers authority joined by 3 park districts that work to operate and maintain over 80,000 acres within the greater LA County area. But we are dedicated to the preservation of open space, parklands, watersheds, trails, and wildlife habitat. I myself am part of the park planning division or park development division. We have multiple other divisions, and you might have heard of us before when it comes to fire, when it comes to rangers, and we also have dedicated parks that we operate and manage on a day-to-day. Some of the parks that you might be familiar with, and we wanted to kind of put in perspective as to what we're looking for Reseda Park Triangle, include Vista Hermosa Natural Park, Compton Creek Natural Park, and Lewis McAdams Riverfront Park, formerly known as Marsh Park. These are all great examples of the similar size and amenities that we're trying to bring to the Reseda Park Triangle that currently stands. Other familiar ones, others that you might be familiar with include Bayona Creek Milton Park, Pacoima Wash Natural Park, and the Tahunga Wash Stream restoration that was completed. So MRCA has been doing these type of projects where it is incorporating nature-based elements, but also trying to really stick to the definition of a multi-benefit space and incorporating additional recreation elements, stormwater capture improvements, all to provide benefit to the local community. That's brief on MRCA, and if you'd like to know more, definitely you can email me and I can give you my full statement on MRCA and what I believe and think. But bringing into context for Reseda Park, it might seem a little bit out of the blue for some, maybe not for others, of why we're focusing on an existing park at Reseda. And I wanted to briefly highlight all the plans that have taken place throughout the years that have highlighted this area, maybe not just particularly the triangle portion that we're focusing on for this project, but the area in general and its connection to the river, on how great it would be as a beneficial of the amenities and improvements that could take place in this area, starting with the LA River Revitalization Master Plan. We also have the Safe Routes to River that highlights facilitating access between schools that exist in the area and local greenways and parks. This plan itself makes the pilot project, or highlights the potential routes that are available between Aliso Creek and Caballero Creek, which is where Reseda Park currently lies. In 2019, the LA County Park Needs Assessment highlighted or studied the Reseda West Van Nuys area and identified it to have a high park need. Among the high park need, this plan evaluated both the quantity and the quality of parks that are located within different regions, and highlighted the need for ADA upgrades to these areas, including for restrooms and path of travel. And more recently, we have the 2020 Upper Los Angeles River Tributaries Plan, which is also referred to as the ULART Plan. It identified this area as an opportunity area as part of the Aliso Wash Design Area, and this project currently aligns with their 9 goals that they highlighted. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight the 2020 LA County River Master Plan that has been currently in 2022 approved by the LA County. And one of the projects highlighted there is referred to as the Reseda expansion, and it is an opportunity to address multiple needs in this area, being near the river. So this area has been addressed in multiple plans. But to summarize, and you can see here the different ways that this area, whether it's through connectivity of a larger regional area, or specifically connecting to the neighboring school next door, it's been reviewed, and we're looking to, at this point, take all those comments and bring it to fruition through a concept, and then eventually into creating park improvements at this place. One thing I wanted to highlight of the importance of this location is due to its location directly adjacent to the LA River, which is not founded. It's very rare because most other parcels that surround the LA River are either private or they're homes. So you don't have much in terms of river revitalization opportunities, but this one is unique in that sense. And so I think it's a great opportunity to take advantage of. You could create multiple benefits, including recreation, water quality enhancements, and native habitat. And in the end, it could be local, but it could also be regional, connecting to parks to the north, which is the Aliso Confluence Park that was recently completed by Trust for Public Land, and connecting down south, which is MRCA is looking to complete very soon, Caballero Creek down to the south. And then in the larger context, you have Sepulveda Basin down the line. So it's a great thing to improve locally as well as for that region as an improvement. And then last thing I wanted to highlight is, as I mentioned, this project is just upstream from the Sepulveda Basin, but it is located in a highly urban and dense area, noted by the Cal and Byers Green mapping tool, as well as the State Parks Community Fact Finder. Neighborhoods within a half a mile of this triangle park are identified to be economically disadvantaged or severely disadvantaged. So aside from it being a regional benefit, we really want to make sure that improvements are going towards those who have been historically economically disadvantaged, and make sure that future dollars are put towards their benefit. And we see this as a great opportunity for that case. So that's just a quick summary on why we're here now talking about Reseda. And Kaya will take it on a little bit further and really talk about stormwater and the connection to the LA River and overall our relationship with water.
Thank you, Sophia. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you for your time and joining us today. Again, my name is Kaya Marina Lay, pronouns are she, her, they, them. And today, as we share information about Reseda Park, I wanted to bring up how stormwater management design can be both useful and beautiful as it relates to water quality and river access. This presentation shouldn't take more than 10 minutes. If at all during this time, you need to use the restroom or grab something to nourish your body, I understand it's 6 o'clock, please feel free to do so. So a little bit about me, I'm going to go back. Yep. A little about me, I grew up in the suburbs of SoCal, and I've learned, especially during the pandemic, the joy of gardening. And so in my family home, there is native plants in the front of the house and exotic fruit trees in the back. So, and so there are some images here that are taken from home. The first one is California buckwheat and California native plant, that with those deep red seeds. The center image is a passion fruit with their flower. And the third is my favorite smelly plant, the purple sage or Salvia clevelandii. And something that I've been feeling lately, and especially with my plants, is the drought. We are feeling the need to stretch the little water that we have as far as we can. The next slide, please. And many of you may have seen, if you live on the freeway, as I do, there are signs that say severe drought, limit water, outdoor watering. And that is something that I feel. And we know that water is life. Water brings life. And when free water literally drops from the sky, it is no brainer to rejoice. The plants are happy. I don't have to wash my car. The air is nice and clean, and it's amazing. Something to celebrate while it rains. Yet, sometimes rain and storms can bring too much water all at the same time. And all of a sudden, streets are flooded and with stormwater, and drivers don't know what to do. And with that, climate change that's drastically prolonging the bouts of droughts and rains are becoming more severe and more frequent. Next slide. The current stormwater management in Los Angeles is the LA River, or the Pime Pahite in Tongva. The Los Angeles has a history of flooding since the 1930s, not even 100 years ago. There was destruction from the floods that were so bad that the only way that they could fix this issue was channelizing the Los Angeles River's 52 miles into concrete, which would be the way to protect the city. And the goal of this channel was to move water out and away as fast as possible into the ocean. And it does. Canoga Park to Long Beach, Canoga Park to Long Beach has a significant elevation change of about 450 feet. And the channel can run around at least 25 miles per hour when it's flooded. As some of y'all may know, LA River is closed after Labor Day weekend because of those potentials of flooding and the fast moving waters and the dangers that come with that. So the main artery of the concrete jungle, like collects surface water and debris and pollution and trash and shopping carts and takes them all the way down to the ocean. The image before is like the LA River and the soft bottom section of the LA River called the Bowtie Parcel. I love it. It's like this post-industrial site. It gives me that like vibe of LA. But this one's a really special place because there's a soft bottom site that has like vegetation growing in the channel. And this picture was taken after like a major flood, a major rainstorm. And inside there's a little white speckle, and that is a truck that is going through to kind of check out if everything's okay. But you can also see that there's debris and trash on the top of trees and on top of the shrubs. But since these since the channelization of Los Angeles River, there has been a lot of changes in the technology, science, and design of stormwater. And so climate impacts have propelled us to reconsider how we manage those stormwaters. Next slide. So I added a little video. It's a 1-minute clip that was created in 2019 by the LA Times after a big storm event. And Sophia, can you please show the video? Thank you, Sophia. So after watching this clip, a quote that stood out to me was, when you look at the Los Angeles River between the 50% and 70% full during a storm, you realize that that is more water running down the river into the ocean than what Los Angeles would use close to a year. That's a lot of water, literally an untapped water resource for Los Angeles. Next slide. This is an opportunity for Los Angeles to reclaim this water source, to reimagine what this LA River could be. And so designing natural stormwater captures replenishes the inspiration for Los Angeles' thirsty landscape. This is something we can incorporate at Reseda Park Triangle as we reimagine this acres of green space adjacent to the LA River with seating and gathering tables. I wanted to share some stormwater features that are proposed for the Reseda Park Triangle Improvement Project. Next slide. So there are 3 features that I like to highlight that manage stormwater and impact water quality. The first one is the stormwater detention basin, stormwater arroyo, which is a dry riverbed, and wetland habitats or native plants. Each of these features slow down the flow of water and allows time for the water to infiltrate into the ground, which reduces the accumulation of pollutants in the LA River. I think about it as an ephemeral art piece that's only activated during rainy days. I do want to preface that each of these features must go through an extensive research to explore the feasibility and the scale before implementation. Next slide. So the first one is stormwater detention basin. It's a seasonal pool that collects rainwater during storms. There are depressions in the ground that allow gravity to move water downhill and then into these holding tanks. And in this image is from MRCA, the Lewis McAdams Waterfront Park. The image to the left, there is kind of like this depression in the grassy area. You can see that with the shade of the trees. That's during like dry season, most of the year. But the image to the right, where it has all the rocks, is when it's like after a rainy day, after a rainy season, it fills with water and becomes kind of an inspirational pond to kind of reflect our lives in as we see this water feature. Next slide. So how does this stormwater detention basin work? It is also called a pond, and what it does is collect rainwater into a bowl and slowly absorbs it in the soil. And then you can kind of see that it's sloped, and there are different layers of of sediment in order to kind of percolate water down. And it is designed for storms that like rain and then stop, and then rain and then stop. And the goal is like coffee in a filter, so like it doesn't overflow. It has times to like to sink into the ground. So stormwater arroyos or dry lake beds are similar to detention ponds, but instead of a bowl, it's a snake, a path of rocks and gravel that meander through the park. And what we see in this image is the LA State Historic Park by California State Parks. It's a park that I hold near and dear to my heart in downtown Los Angeles. To the image to the left is my old office, but more importantly, you can see the rocks and gravel stream pathway as it points down to points to the skyline of the Los Angeles skyline. To the image to the right is like after a rainy day, you can see that that water has like accumulated and it travels through the 32 acres of that park. So it's really pretty to see. So how does that work? Again, water collects into a stream as like gravity shifts all the water into the gravel and the rocks and the sand, and it slowly flows through like a stream and gets absorbed into the ground. But also knowing that like there, you know, rivers don't have a beginning and end, and so there is an outlet at the end of the stream to release water into the river. Third slide. The third feature we have is the wetland habitat with native plants. Some native plants, or all native plants have adapted to the wet and hot seasons of this area and provide ecosystem services and habitat for biodiversity of LA's wildlife. For those birders out there, the LA River is an integral part for the Pacific Flyway bird migration. LA River supports hawks and coopers and falcons, but also endangered species like the tricolored blackbird, which is shown on the bottom right corner of the slide. And wetland habitats and native plants are like sponges that slow down the flow of water and also redistributes the much needed moisture to support wildlife that relies on it. Next slide. Lastly, so as we move into the next section of this presentation, I urge you to consider the value and benefit of stormwater management that I shared with you today. Stormwater is untapped opportunity to improve water quality and replenish LA's thirsty landscape. With that, I'd like to pass it back to Sophia and George.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate you highlighting components that I think we sometimes see and can't identify, and it's great to put them in that perspective, especially once seeing the video of the stormwater. And at the end, if anyone wants to stay, I did take a clip. I think it was December of 2020, we just had a storm, and you'll see the LA River flowing actually at Reseda. So after we conclude, that's a if you stay to the end kind of prize. Thank you so much. And George, now we will pass it on to you. We're going to be focusing on the concepts themselves. And one thing I wanted to highlight is that these concepts are not rigid pieces. They're more puzzle pieces put together. We have park elements that people have described that are kind of it's standard in a natural park, but also people have wanted. And these are just three different ways that we can put them together. And we would like you to take a look specifically at the park elements. And these are not set in stone, if you will. So just wanted to make that as a highlight. And George, I'll pass it on to you. Oh, actually, not yet. I just wanted to, now that I remember what I had in this slide, bringing the context back to Reseda Park. And for those who haven't been at Reseda Park recently, and if you have, great, you might have seen us there with the flyers. I just wanted to highlight a couple of existing conditions of this park and kind of highlight why I refer to it as Reseda Park Triangle. So as I mentioned, the long river edge that we have here uniquely at Reseda is untapped, I'd like to say, to keep going on with Kaya's terminology. It's currently fenced off, so there isn't any direct connection to the river. Additionally, we have it is a great park to see and sit in the tree shade. There's a great tree canopy. A recent arbor study that we did, well, back in 2019, found 136 trees. I think one was dead, but anyway, 135 is the number that I have in my head. We do have a maintenance yard there for rec and parks. There is a restroom unit, a couple of picnic areas. So that's kind of what we have to work with right now, and I just wanted to highlight why I call it a triangle. It's formed and bounded by Kittredge Street to the north, and then we have Etiwanda Avenue to the east, and then LA River, as you can see, is a large riverfront on the southwest end. And just as a note, in case anyone has tried to find Reseda Park Triangle or the north component of it on Google Maps, unfortunately, it is not highlighted as a park, although that is what we're trying to change to make sure that the green that we see on this aerial is reflected on this part instead. And let me just double check I'm not missing. Currently, we're working with 5 acres on this side. Total Reseda Park is 23 acres, but this area is only accessible through the roads that I mentioned, and there's also one pedestrian bridge over on Etiwanda. And with that, I'll turn it over to George to take a look at the concepts.
Thanks, Sophia. If you want to flip to the next slide. I just realized the number 3 is going to come up a lot. We have 3 concepts, like Sophia mentioned, they're high-level concept approaches. But I was thinking about this, and my son is 3 years old, and the first thing we're going to consider is 3 things. Really, it's about people, nature, and in this case, the LA River. So those 3 things we want to think about as foundations as we look through these concepts. So you can't have a park without people, right? And the big thing here is that park design has evolved a lot over the last decade or 20 years to the point now to landscape architects have been advocating for a lot of the things you see proposed now. And it's just a recent sentiment from the public that these are things people want now. Now they understand it's available. So park design is evolving and improving and is not only great for people, but it's also great for nature and all the sustainability aspects that we want to make sure that we're adhering to. But the first thing, it still comes back to people. And there's a community to serve here, and you serve people through amenities. So it made me think about 3 years ago before I had a son, I saw parks in a certain way as a designer, and now I have a huge appreciation for soft surfaces because this guy can jump and run faster than me. So my perception has changed over 3 years. So I am 2 people, and I can see this park from 2 different angles. So if you multiply that over a community, we know that there's a lot of things that people probably prioritize. So what we've done here is organize these concepts. You'll see some amenities assigned to each one, but think of it as like a kit of parts. If you see an amenity for one of the other concepts and you think you like the first concept better, these things are somewhat interchangeable. So these aren't set in stone, and as Sophia said, these are high-level concepts, but we want to focus on the big idea based on people, nature, and the LA River. So if we go to the next slide. So if the first one was talking about people, when you start to talk about nature, that perception has changed a lot over the last decade. Again, we're looking at performative aspects of nature. It's not just an aesthetic thing. We don't look at English gardens and French gardens as precedents anymore. We're looking at Southern California's native landscapes. So chaparral biomes, native plants that are specific and adjusted to the fire cycles of our mountainsides. These things are important, and it's the perception of that aesthetic that's just recently been changing. So now as landscape architects, we've been able to start to incorporate these things without having to force them on people. They're actually being asked for. So in terms of nature and connecting people to nature, Kaya had talked about stormwater management, things like that. Those are functional parts that typically in a park you'll see a constructed stormwater system where you're trying to hide drains, you're trying to hide the infrastructure, and you're spending extra money to get it done so that everything flows out to that big concrete channel. But what we're doing is we're exposing all that stuff by very simply going back to the way it was before we started developing these things. So the three concepts you're going to see are going to be rooted in three different stormwater management systems that are kind of the foundation for how humans can relate to nature. And yes, that has to do with plants, but it also has to do with the hydrology of the local area, the watershed of the greater LA basin. All these things are, there's this big giant system that we're all tied into. And the coolest thing about that is that this is a huge educational component to where we just expand that perception. And anytime somebody comes to visit the park, there's an opportunity to actually learn how Southern California works from a natural perspective. And then the last thing while we're on this slide, and Sophia's mentioned this a couple times, this is a very unique location. And it's kind of like the gold standard in my profession. Anything on the LA River is an absolute amazing thing to witness, whether you're involved or not. And Reseda Park has a front porch to the evolution of what is basically a symbol of the direction we should be heading as the human species, watching things, learning from the mistakes that we make that may have made sense 50 years ago and building on that. Now, okay, well, we have time to correct that. So the LA River is going to go through this great evolution, and you'll see that's the third component to these concepts, that what is that relationship, both physically and kind of figuratively to the LA River. So we can get into the first concept. So basically, the first thing that probably stands out here is the LA River and then that big rectangle that's joining the park to the LA River. And the thought here is that that first term, what is the relationship to the LA River? This is very direct. This is terracing down so that people that are within the park can make their way down here, and that's a direct connection to the LA River. And we don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future down there, but we know something's going to happen. So this most likely is going to be a very interesting experience. It's either a place to sit and watch the sunset, or whatever happens down in that basin, you're going to have front row action. So in terms of the LA River connection, out of the three concepts, this one is the most direct connection. So graphically, you can see from the sketch, it's a high level concept, but hopefully it's pretty apparent what we're trying to do here. From a nature and stormwater standpoint, this is based on the idea of stormwater detention basins. And again, we're not trying to hide infrastructure anymore. We're trying to make these things visible components of the park that are actually the opposite. They're actually amenities and elements that are aesthetically, natural and feel, like something you want to be looking at, not hide in the back of a planting or a bush. So based on that system, if you do have these depressions and you have grading where the topography changes, you would think that that's a challenge, but it actually allows us to add these elements to the park that create more interest. So wherever you have these grade changes, you can have these little footbridges to where you can have educational components, or just the experience of walking across those depressions in the ground over these little footbridges to get to that part where you interact with the LA River really enhances the experience of the park. And then if you go to the next slide, again, these are somewhat interchangeable, but it's just a glimpse of some of the amenities you can start locating in the park. The lawn areas, we know that lawn is a very is not the greatest proposition now, but there is a way to do lawn that's low water use, but it goes back to that perception thing. People are used to, in the residential sense, having lush green lawns, mowing them every day. There is a lawn, or more than one lawn applications that do not have to be mowed every day and do not have to be watered every day, but it relies on public perception that it's okay for your lawn to not be lush green 365 days a year. So that's kind of what we're looking at here, just to dispel any worries about that. So if we go to the next concept, starting again with the LA River connection, this is less direct, but maybe I'll start with the stormwater strategy here. The wetlands, as Kaya was talking about, are one of the most biodiverse ecosystems that we have on planet Earth, and a constructed wetland is a great foundation for a concept here. And you can see the three blue areas would be our wetland areas, and they start to break up the site, and you can see the circulation start to form around them. So the concept here from a pedestrian standpoint is that you get these little footbridges or boardwalks that are all connected and create the system. So you're coming right up and up up close to the wetlands, and then that relationship to the LA River is not directly going down in, but it's cantilevered over. So you have that overlook at number 8 where you can actually walk out, and again, you get that amazing view from the west, and whatever's going to happen in that LA River, you have a front row seat, whatever's happening below you. And then if you go to the next slide, again, here's some proposed amenities. The amenities, again, can change out, but it's really about the stormwater strategy, and then what's that connection to the LA River, and then what does the community want as far as amenities. Those things come together and create the concept from there. And then the final concept, this is the Arroyo experience. It's one of my favorite. I guess I like all three, but the Arroyo experience, it doesn't de-emphasize the LA River. You still have this amazing relationship to the river, not directly down in there, but right on the edge, and creates an interesting waterfront. But if you come back further north, and especially along Kittredge, you enter on like an entry plaza, and that's where this Arroyo experience begins. And you just get this widened kind of stormwater strategy that is really enhanced by rock material, plants, native trees, everything that you would see associated with a natural, either a dry creek arroyo. And again, 95% of the time there's going to be no water in it, but that's the whole point. It's really understanding what the nature of Los Angeles is, and this is really what it is. And now that we embrace it, we want Reseda Park to it's kind of a back and forth. Reseda Park honors the natural system of Los Angeles, and in return, Reseda Park reinserts itself into the fabric of the pre-developed kind of area that it lives in. So the Arroyo separates the site a little further north, and you get the larger lawn areas closer to the LA River. So all of your pedestrian pathways you can see start to split up the site, but unlike the other two options, the Arroyo is further north on this plan, where the concentration on the other ones are a little more spread out or towards the LA River. And then on the last slide, you can see some of the public amenities we've added in here. So this is the last concept, and just to say it again, it's about people, nature, and the LA River, and they sound like catchphrases, but hopefully explaining those a little bit it's more to it than just words or buzzwords. It's really what those things mean, and especially in 2022, they mean something different than they did 10-20 years ago. And I think Reseda Park has potential to be something absolutely amazing, especially considering its proximity to the LA River. So
Fantastic.
thanks, Sophia.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And every time I look at these, I look at something different, and I've been looking at them for a little minute. So I know that this is the first time a lot of people are seeing this, and this is not the only opportunity that you'll get to see it. We'll be sharing these concepts for you. We'll be sharing a survey that you can fill out if there's nothing else. If you don't have any, thought, if you have a thought that comes to you as you're driving, you're like, wait, I forgot to tell them this. There's definitely plenty of opportunities coming down the line.
Sophia, could I add something quickly?
Of course.
Please,
Would you like me to go on any slide, or you're good here?
No, I'm good. Just wanted quickly some things after seeing the presentation from you, Sophia, and Kaya and George. It was wonderful, and it just brought me back to something I mentioned in the opening, and that is that I was director of Ken Malloy Harbor Regional Park. It's the only natural lake in all of Los Angeles. I invite you all to go see it. 40-acre lake, 230-acre park in Harbor City. And then I was at Augustus Hawkins Natural Park, which was built by the Conservancy, and a wonderful landscape architect that worked for the Conservancy, Stephanie Landrigan, who's also a UCLA professor, brought the Santa Monica Mountains to South LA. I was the first city director. And then also bringing up what I wanted to bring up about that park, though, Augustus Hawkins and Caballero Creek Park, which you mentioned, which you've been at, which we're breaking ground shortly right there on the other side by Reseda High School off Lindley, for those listening, and Aliso Creek Confluence Park, which is right off of Kittredge behind the apartments there, those were undeveloped areas. And so we were doing something brand new, and we leveraged, with the funding that Trust for Public Land and the state did, we were able to put in city funds to help complete both those parks, and we engaged in it. And so there's two things I wanted to mention was that, one, I don't think it's and I may sound biased, but I don't think it's just by chance that we're at Reseda too, because of Councilmember Blumenfield, because he worked for the Conservancy and the whole team really wanted to do something in this area that they know that he cares about. And so I just want people to know that I think that that's a big part of it too, that helps us get something. The second thing I want to mention, which is more important, is many of the people on this call that are listening, I see the panelists, the friends in Jamie and others who know that this is an existing park. And so unlike those other areas I mentioned, which were brand new and undeveloped areas, I want people to understand this is sensitive to wanting what the community wants. These are beautiful concepts. I also just want to make sure that we're looking out for what the community wants. And I want the community to know that we were going to do that when we get to Q&A, because some of the community has raised to me how they like the passive, nature of it, which is still the theme we're on. But there's certain amenities they would love to see, that we know that the people live right across the street, the people that come to use that north end of Reseda Park versus the south side of the river, which is all, more of a sports recreation center type. This is really kind of a unique jewel that we're going to get to have this on the north end, almost like you mentioned at the beginning, Sophia. These are two separate parks almost, and it's seen that way many times. So there's really a great opportunity to be had here with everything that you and Kaya and George presented. And I hope and look forward to hearing. I'm excited to hear what the community believes from having experienced it, already having an existing park there, what we're going to see and how we can incorporate that into some of the wonderful designs you presented. So I'm looking forward to that, and I thank you all again. Give me a minute there.
Oh, of course, John, and we appreciate all of your support, and also just in reiterating what you just mentioned, we really want to make sure that this strikes a balance with what's existing currently at Reseda Park. As you mentioned, the south end has a lot of active recreation, and the concept that we're seeing are in terms technically passive recreation, but that can be seen in many different ways. And I'm from the San Fernando Valley, but I'm in Arleta and Pacoima, so I know the Valley neighborhoods are very different, so I can't state personally to what Reseda wants for this project. I know what's been listed on the plans already, but this is the opportunity, I think, and we're really excited to hear what people have to say right now. Absolutely. And then just in the next couple days, as we keep sharing these concepts and information, and just if nothing has come to, and this is for everyone who's participating, a couple of questions to keep in mind. We'd like you to kind of contextualize in case nothing has come up, is in what way do you wish to interact with the riverfront? As George mentioned, there's 3 different ways in the concept. Each one highlights 3 different approaches to engaging with the river. Secondly, what park elements would you like to see in the final concept? Because in the end, that is the goal that we're trying to achieve. That's our next step. Big milestone is to have a number of elements, have a number of opportunities and options to end up with the final concept that will then further inform other questions that we might get, like what's the timeline, how long will it take to construct, what's the budget for it. We really need to get to a final concept, but that can only be done if it's informed by public input, for sure. And then if anything else comes to mind, share any additional thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns. And so at this point, like I mentioned, we'll be taking comments, and if you haven't signed up to talk to the Q&A, please do so now. And if you're calling by phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand, and we'll be calling on people one by one. We don't have a limit on time that people will talk, but please respect everyone's time. If you have a specific question or just want to give a comment, you're open to do all of those things at this time. Jessica, will you go ahead and get started?
Yes. So the first speaker, Preston S., can you please unmute yourself?
I might have to do that myself. 1 second. Preston, go ahead.
Hello?
Oh.
I'm okay. So I'm a community member associated with Reseda, and I want to support splash pads and shade features due to the fact that the valley is already an extremely hot environment, and it's only going to get hotter. And I want a place for children to be able to, experience the outdoors, and they're extremely susceptible to heat stroke, which can lead to like very serious health consequences if left untreated. And multiple other parks near Reseda, notably Reseda Park, has these shade features installed, and I think it's equitable and necessary for Reseda to receive these features as well. So that is all.
Fantastic. And can you repeat that park again, just so that we can have that clear?
You want me to repeat the statement?
The park that you mentioned, the one that has the shade
S-
structures?
Serenia.
Serenia. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Next speaker is Jamie York.
1 second. Fantastic, Jamie. You should be able to speak.
Hi, my name is Jamie York. I'm on the Reseda Neighborhood Council, but I'm speaking as an individual. I definitely want a splash pad, but it's not just me, it's our community. When we just had an event in Reseda Park, we took comment cards from the community. And by far the biggest one that outstripped any other comment we received is that they wanted a splash pad for the kids. We got, I think it was 73 or 74 comments that said that. Reseda lacks green space. We're a park deprived neighborhood. That's not a secret. When you look at the 2016 LA County Parks Assessment Study, one of the things that they recommended was a splash pad. So we're really interested in something that gives kids a place to play, but that is also cool. Reseda is also one of the more dense neighborhoods in the valley. You have a lot of these families that are stuffed into apartments that really need open green space to act as their yard to play in. And if you've ever been to the Reseda Triangle Park, on any given day that you go there, you're going to see families having birthdays. You're going to see families having quinceañeras. You're going to see families having reunions and get-togethers and barbecues. It's a space where people in our community gather. And we value the open green space. We had a movie night there with Councilwoman Nithya Raman. That was a really successful big event. So we actually really do need these big open spaces, because that's the only park that we have that has a bathroom. Randall Simmons is the only other one that's kind of like a decent size, but there's no accessible bathroom. So if this park gets taken away from being an accessible space for people, we're going to take away the one place that people in the community can gather and have these kinds of celebrations. But as I said, the reason that we're advocating so hard for the splash pad is that in talking to our neighbors, talking to the people that come to our meetings, one of the number one things that they talk to us about is wanting park amenities. And the park amenity that they want is a splash pad. They want a place for their children to be able to cool off when it's 110 degrees. They want to be able to feel like there's something nice that they can take their kids to that's fun and that's a treat. And we also have the opinion that a splash pad could also act as an economic driver for our neighborhood, because it would bring people in from other neighborhoods into Reseda so that they could experience the community that we love so much and that we want to build and improve on. I think it would be great if the splash pad was like LA River themed. That could go really nicely in with your educational mission. And I'd also love it if we could explore the idea of using Measure W funds to get a splash pad that reclaims its water and then uses the water that it uses and uses that for irrigation, so that we're not being wasteful in terms of our water usage. But a splash pad is something that our community deserves, and frankly, it's something that our community needs. Thank you.
Fantastic, Jamie. I appreciate your comments. And please note that all of these, the meeting is being recorded, but we're also noting all the comments as well within ourselves. And let me see. Go ahead, Jessica.
Our next speaker is Jennifer Hunt.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for your time. And I appreciate everything that everyone is doing tonight. The designs looked beautiful, but I too am here to advocate for a splash pad. I am a mom of 2 young children, and it is hot in the valley. And my kids can't swim, so we can't go to a municipal pool quite yet. So we really could benefit from going to a place where they could run around, cool off, and and have some fun. You know, I kept hearing how all of these designs were people-centered. People need some place to take their children from May through October, and I mean, it's over 90 every day here.
It's so many cool.
Excuse me. Sorry, that's one of my children right now. It's very hot. We really need a place where children can cool off. The Reseda Park is right by a ton of apartment buildings where families live with their children. Kind of echoing what Jamie said, I think you could make it an educational experience. It could be a LA themed splash pad or a river with learning opportunities. I even think there's enough space for you to be able to do some of the water saving strategies that you are thinking would be a good option there. But I think the splash pad is the most important thing for our community. And it is what obviously the people are saying they would like. And I thank you very much for your time, and thanks.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I appreciate your thoughts
I really
and their thoughts as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Our next speaker is Matt Gudernich.
Matt, I believe.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yes, please.
Great. Yeah. You folks aren't going to believe this, but I would also like to talk about a splash pad or some shade at the park. I live in Reseda. I have a house here. I have some kids. It sounds like what we're trying to do is take one of the few green areas we have and sort of turn it into a swamp to fight climate change. And I don't think anybody's going to disagree that we need to fight climate change, but taking like a lower income area park and turning it into an area where we can just kind of collect water rather than making it a usable space like every other community around here has. I don't know, feels a little insane. Echoing what other parents have said on here, trying to enjoy anything in the valley for the last month has been impossible. Like, we can't walk down the street. It is so hot. My 1.5-year-old will actually overheat just from running down the street with me. So something like a splash pad and well shaded park areas would give us a place to go and enjoy our lives rather than sitting inside and trying to blast our air conditioning to try and keep up with this heat. There's a lot of ills in the world that cause climate change, but a splash pad at a park in the valley is not one of them. So while we need to address those things, why don't we put the community first? And, you can do all the environmental stuff you want to do in areas where people don't need to play with their children and have access to things that they don't have at their homes. So that's it. More shade, more water. And, I don't know, hopefully unhoused people are allowed to be at that park. That'd be nice too, if they had a place to go every now and then.
Fantastic, Matt. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Our next speaker is Erin Huffer. You have your hand raised.
Erin, you should be allowed.
Hi, surprise, surprise, splash pad. Seems to be, yeah, okay, sorry.
Don't forget.
That seems to be that's my son. No, I didn't influence him. Yeah, so my son goes to school in Reseda, and I'm also very involved in Reseda and in the community. But yes, I mean, everything that's already been said here, that Reseda is a very dense area. I think the Triangle Park itself, it is surrounded. If you just go over there, you can see it's surrounded by all apartments. There's a lot of schools in there around the area. I'll see kids just with their parents walking, in the neighborhood on any given day. So definitely that would be used by a lot of families. And I was also in a mom's club, and, we used to go all over the valley, even to Simi Valley, just to go to, get some, just to kind of cool off once in a while. So we actually, just in terms of geography, I mean, we could use one in the middle of the valley. And also, of course, the community of Reseda, as has been said before, could really benefit from it. Yeah. And I think that's it. And I think a lot of voices have spoken here, and I really hope you consider it because just as many others have said, a lot of families, a lot of people, when you present this idea to them, or they've even come up with it themselves, this is really what they want to see. This is something that's going to be really useful for the community. Thank you.
So much.
Our next speaker is Catherine Tattersfield. You have your hand raised.
Second. Catherine.
Hello.
Hello.
Somebody made me a panelist. I don't think that was the intent, but
I think you still have the old version of Zoom, and so that's why it only allowed me to do it. But you can speak now, and then I'll bring you back as an attendee.
okay, cool. Yeah, I just echo everybody else. I think a splash pad is a great solution for this community. I grew up in the West Valley. I remember going to Reseda Park as a kid. I would have loved that. Like everybody said, there's a lot of kids in the area. It's a very dense community, and they don't always have access to these kinds of fun things. And now I live in Chatsworth, and Mason Park has a splash pad, and that is almost entirely single family homes surrounding that park. And a lot of those kids have a pool in their backyard, and yay for them. But to me, it seems like an equity thing when you have a neighborhood like that where a lot of people don't really need a resource like that in the community, and the park doesn't get used nearly as much as Reseda Park does by people in the neighborhood. So it seems unfair that kids in a more dense neighborhood don't have the same access that the kids in Chatsworth do. So that's what I wanted to say. Go splash pad.
Fantastic. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I think that concludes the public comment portion, Sophia. I don't believe we have any more speakers.
Okay, we'll give it like 2 more chances for anyone to raise their hand. But thank you so much for everyone's comments. Let me make sure I can close out of this. Fantastic. And then moving on to the next slide. Oh, this is the one that I was supposed to be on. My apologies.
Sophia, Jamie raised her hand again.
Oh, sure. 1 second, Jamie.
Is it okay if my husband makes a comment? He just doesn't want to have to sign in on Zoom to do it.
Hello, Jamie's husband. Please proceed.
1 second. Here you go.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, I would like to see a splash pad in the neighborhood of Reseda personally. Thank you.
Thank you. And my apologies for not having this board up. That it was supposed to show the 3 concepts. We got excited about the Q&A, and we went right into it. But these, if there's no one else, Jessica?
No hands raised, no.
Thank you so much. A summary of the concepts as George went through them wonderfully and going through them. And these are each one underneath that shows, like we mentioned, the park elements that were highlighted in each one. And this is what will be reflected in your survey once you conclude the Zoom meeting to get another way of getting feedback. But to continue, we've made it to the last slide. To highlight, we do have 2 outreach meetings coming up at the Reseda Park Triangle site. The first one is this Saturday, August 20th at 11 a.m. It'll be from 11 a.m. to 12:30. And then on Wednesday, the following Wednesday, August 24th at 6 p.m. to 7:30. We'll have some solar lights out there if it starts to get a little bit too dark. But those will be on site and again, follow the similar concepts that we've been sharing here today. Will be shared there on site and comment cards for you to voice additional opinions. And if all of the options that we've given so far don't work for you, you can always email me. My email is right there at the bottom left-hand corner with any thoughts or additional comments regarding the Reseda Park Triangle project and the concepts. Please note that we do want to proceed further into the developing a final concept, so timelines are always a thing, and we're going to be accepting comments until Wednesday, August 31st at 5 o'clock. So this is a 2-week period. And last but not least, please follow us on social media. That's where we'll be putting up future project updates. We might be all sick of QR codes. I personally love the QR code. I knew it was going to make a comeback. And so here you can find resources both on the content that we shared After this meeting, we will share the recording as well as the slides and the concept. So it's all there to refresh your memory. Does anyone have anything that I might have missed at this point?
I just wanted to ask for those of the commenters, I think a few of them might have mentioned splash pad. I don't know if you heard them or not. And so when they choose in the survey one of those three concepts, I know you said if there's something that's not in there and they just email you, is there a survey, or is there a choice of those three concepts that you think they should be picking? Because when you went back, if you go back a slide where it says fitness equipment or play equipment, is that one of the ones where maybe they should be saying, I kind of like this one? And if you're talking like a Royal Experience, for example, that they say splash pad there kind of thing, what do you suggest? Or should they just write to you directly?
They can definitely write to me directly. Within the survey that's going to follow, it highlights each concept individually, but you're almost selecting the elements for each concept. So you're not voting on a concept in particular. And at the end, you do have an opportunity for 3 open-ended questions to voice. It's the questions that we saw here. How would you like to engage with the riverfront? What elements would you like to see in the final concept? And it does not have to be elements that we have brought through with the concept. And then at the end, there's an open-ended, please share any final thoughts, comments, or questions. So it's through the survey. You can also email me, please feel free. And then also on site, we're going to be having the events on site. And ideally, all of these comments that we receive will compile into an FAQ document or frequently asked questions, and we'll be sure to share that with the public afterwards.
Thank you.
Of course.
Can I add one thing, Sophia?
Please go ahead.
I think the best thing when you look at the 3 concepts, especially for everybody that asked the question today, imagine every single one of these 3 options said splash pad was included. Then which one would you prefer? Which one would kind of pique your interest? Because these are really big concepts, and the splash pad may or not, it can be included in all of them. So don't let that get in the way, because it can be incorporated. So what do you think holistically of the concept? And then the splash pad is an element that can be absorbed into it.
Thanks, George.
Absolutely. And we've seen some great examples, and we can share those examples as well. We went to, was it Philadelphia? Philly, Sister City Park. They have some great water play amenities that are also incorporated when it comes to natural play habitat. So there's definitely, we love hearing what you would like to see, and we'd love to show you how that can look like in these concepts down the line. And that's what we'll be doing down the line. I believe there was someone else. No, I think that was all the questions that I had. I can see here, Jessica, if in case there's anyone else that I didn't see, let me know. Otherwise, again, I'll just leave it on this. We'll be sharing, and then once you conclude the Zoom, you'll be guided directly to the survey. And there's a link on there if you want to see the survey in Spanish, the Spanish version as well. And like I promised, for those who stayed,
Sophia, before you start the movie, I do think
Jamie has her hand.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I signed up for updates about Triangle Park basically as soon as I found out about it through going through council files / Mr. Blumenfield's updates. But there's like a Google form on your guys' website for updates about this park, and I never actually received anything from like automated. It was just through my direct conversations with Sophia. So I was just wondering, the data that was collected there for the people who've signed up, it might just be me, but the Reseda Neighborhood Council has been directing people to that website if they wanted to sign up to get updates about this particular park. So I'm just hoping that since I didn't receive anything at the email that I signed up with, that you guys could look to see if there's any other emails, and definitely make sure that the invitations go out to anybody who's signed up there as well, because we have been directing people to that resource on your guys' webpage.
Fantastic, Jamie. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. There might be a glitch in not receiving them, but I'll double check to make sure that all the connections are being made. And anyone who signed up here will get any future updates, and I'll double check on those updates. You were saying from the Reseda Park Development page, correct? The MRCA
Yes, correct.
website?
There's like a Google form, and that's where we've been sending people who have had inquiries about park improvements for Triangle Park. That we said that was the best way to get updates. So I was just a little bit concerned when I didn't see anything sort of automated come out from there, just because I don't want people to miss out on their opportunity to have their voice heard, because we want everybody to, it makes a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I concur. And I'll be sure to double check myself for that one. So thank you for
Awesome. Thank you.
And then just we can log off as they go. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Like I mentioned, this content will be available for everyone to reference down the line. And then just a look at the Reseda section of the LA River. Let me just double check. Let's get good quality because I recorded good. This is December, so you can see there's significant flows along the LA River. Even MLB does a quiet minute. So thank you all for joining us today. There are geese coming by shortly. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for attending. We'll talk soon.
Sophia, were you standing in the rain when you took this video?
That's called commitment. I'm just kidding. No, it was there's some great ones from Sepulveda. Go to our YouTube channel. We have some quiet minutes of meditation in there, as I call them. No, but it was great. And you don't think about, you see the river flows and you don't tend to go outside when it rains, but it's quite beautiful when it does.
As a Canadian born and bred, I love hearing the Canada geese, because that's what I grew up around. And when they visit here, and the ones that live here now, it's nice. And that's a great shot that you've taken of Reseda.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We'll be concluding this